Anyone else who's definitely coming and we are missing them, then we can just wait for a minute. So, yeah, so I think I'll start. So the whole idea of this get together today is to say hi to everyone. Everyone's been traveling and we've really been out of touch. We've not engaged in a conversation as such. We've done the work for the last few years. And if you remember, we did 2 physical sessions of She Leads, and then the pandemic struck. And then it was more about really helping women leaders to survive. And our next 3 sessions focus so much on survival, actually being in the game. Then we did a little bit of calibration, recalibration. Then we did another 2-3 sessions, which were hybrid and which had virtual sessions, but which also had physical sessions. It went on well. We have done 8 She Lead sessions now, over 100 participants. But we felt that we should pause. We should also start seeing patterns and see what is happening post-pandemic. As you all know, Vaishnavi kicked this off long ago with the research. Then again, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, during the pandemic, we kept doing the research. Now Archana is actually continuing that work. And I'm sure she's spoken to all of you, many of you, and also our participants. And she's had a lot of extensive conversations. She'll share some of the headlines of what she has gathered from what she has spoken. We've also invited Nimi to join us today and help us to, also brainstorm. We have some of the coaches here who are also doing some work with women leaders. And that also is adding to our, the entire basket of what we can do for women leaders going forward. There is a certain thinking, some hypothesis developing about should it be a women's only program? Should it continue to be a women's only program? Should it also be, open to other leaders, which we are anyway doing? Is coaching the only intervention? Should it be only one-on-one coaching? So all these thoughts are coming up. We've had mixed responses from people. So today is a day where you can share your thoughts, experiences, whether it's She Leads or otherwise, your experiences with women leaders would be very helpful for us to actually, make some of these things happen in the future. 3 parts to this. One, our sharing of what CFI has gathered as research. Second, Nimi's contribution and questions to us as a community. We would welcome that, Nimi, so that it helps us also put on our thinking hats. And the third part is, how do we approach this going forward? So whatever thoughts you have on that would be very welcome towards the end, so that we can, crystallize that. We have Chitra, we have Archana, who will also gather some more information and make sure that we kind of relaunch She Leads in its new avatar soon. So having said that, Archana, can I invite you to, share our, our research and some of the highlights of what we have received?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sudha. First, I must say it's really nice to have faces to connect with the voices I spoke to. So really nice to see all of you. And as far as the research, what the findings are, it's a little of a mixed bag, but the headlines, as Sudha said, this is how it goes. So amongst coaches, right, the majority overwhelmingly felt that there is certainly a space for a women's only program. However, there were a couple of us who felt that maybe not anymore. Maybe at some point in time it was surely needed, but women have evolved and the workplace has evolved. And so maybe we really don't need a women's only program right now, where the thoughts of a couple of us as well, right? As far as participants were concerned, again, there was a bit of division there. So when it came to, say, mid-senior level or up to mid-senior level, participants all have said that they really wanted and enjoyed the Women's Only program. It was a space for them to discuss so many things that they wouldn't have been able to do in other programs. But when I spoke to more senior leaders, it was a bit of a mixed response, where they felt that maybe we don't really need so much of focus on self anymore. Maybe we need, a program which is looking at how to deal better with others, how to deal better with the environment, the uncertainty, the ambiguity, and so on and so forth. So their requirements were at that level. The second thing that the more senior people said was that even if it is a cohort-based women's only program, we would it will be of more value if all the other women in the cohort were also at the same level as we were. And as you know, we have been having slightly mixed batches so far. So that was one ask from their side. And then we also spoke about how networking was supposed to be one of the takeaways of, or one of the things that we wanted to see happen with She Leads. But somehow that didn't really take off the way we wanted it to. And some feedback that I received was that we cannot take networking as an indicator of how the program went. Right? Because women truly don't have the time to do anything that is not directly related to their work. So, don't read too much into the networking aspect of it, was what some of you said. And I also asked about, as of now, it has been women for women coaches. But I think almost all of us, including the participants, unanimously felt that a choice can be given to the participants, whether they want male coaches or they want women coaches. The other thing that more senior people asked for was maybe a little bit more of mentoring combined with the other inputs that we usually give in the She Leads program. There was also an ask for more in-person sessions. As you know, that we have been having a mixed kind of a hybrid format, but it looks like there is an ask for more in-person sessions. And also the ADD was called out as something that really made a difference to many of them. So if you have any other, these are the headlines, Sudha. So if there's anything else, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Archana, one quick question. What is ADD? You mentioned something that had the...
yeah, that's the appreciative discovery dialogue we do at the beginning of the coaching. That's the first session where we go into their story and, really understand what are their strengths and what is the vision and, how would they like this forward. Yeah. So thank you, Archana. And really, I know you have more details, and when Nimi finishes and, asks us questions, then maybe you can also cite some of your findings. Over to you, Nimi.
Yeah, thanks, Sudha, thanks, Archana, and hello, everyone. Absolutely delighted to be part of this conversation. Thank you for letting me be part of this brainstorming that you're doing. I do not bring answers, but I certainly can bring perspectives, and I think together we might be able to pull out some threads of, what could be done differently, or, we're also struggling with very similar issues. But, have tried different ways of doing things, and some of them have, given us better results, some haven't. So I think I'm very happy to talk about all of that, and then we can kind of arrive at what would work. Yeah, so I know Sudha said, asked Nimi to ask us questions. So, maybe one of the questions, and I think this is something for all of us to think about. And when I say all of us, because at Interweave, the company that I lead, also we do some women's leadership programs based on the requirements of organizations. They're all pretty much in-house sessions. And, they include classroom sessions, quite a few. We did virtual, some of them were virtual sessions, but by and large, they're mostly in-person sessions, and they go well because, women, when they meet, are full of stories and fully inspired, and then they go back and then we hear nothing till the next session. So that's also a, part of the package. So how do we keep them engaged during that period, and how do you kind of really make sure that change happens? Has been a challenging, initiative for us as well. Having said that, one of the things that I have personally seen as important is the fact that we should have women that want to lead. Okay, so how do we make women want to lead? There are many times when companies pick up women because they're good performers. Right? And they're doing really well. So they believe they have potential, and therefore we must train them to become even better and go higher. But if the woman herself doesn't desire it, and, I was discussing this earlier as well before the session, we had a little call with Chala, Ganesh and team. And I think figuring out, even if the woman is not a great performer, but is driven, I think is a good resource to work with. So I think that is possibly one thing to look at, who are these women that are driven to want to stretch and do things, and not necessarily performance. Obviously, if it's a poor performer, clearly that's not what we want, but somewhere, above average and driven would be something to look at. So how do we choose? Do we choose from the organization picking people? Or do we get women to nominate themselves and say, I'm interested and I'm willing to go through that extra effort and time that's required? So those are some things you can look at. Maybe you can even look at, doing a little interview and test or whatever, like, a SAT kind of a thing to figure out your aptitude and interest. So there are multiple ways in even choosing that group, right? So you're investing well right at the beginning. And then, of course, what is it that they need? I heard Archana say that, some of them feel that we've evolved enough to not really have a separate program. Now, I sort of believe that we still need it, because the numbers still don't prove that, there is parity of representation. So, and women still have the higher burden of home, and their challenges are fairly, still prevalent in multiple ways. So for all these reasons, and when I say challenges, it's really I'm not talking about the skills at all. Really, not the leadership attributes as we typically know them, because I think women are quite skilled. They are capable of doing a lot of good for the organization. But where they seem to fall back is really in their ability to influence more widely, to network. Part of it, some of them call it politicking, or, I can't do that. So sometimes they avoid it because they think it's a bad thing to do, things like that. So how do you enable a woman to have legitimacy for leadership and to actually understand that ambition is not a bad? I think, because sometimes socially a woman is not as encouraged to be driven and aspire for more, unlike a man is always enabled, right? A woman is not as strongly enabled. And oftentimes she feels that I am neglecting home and family for my own personal gains, and therefore I am selfish, and there is that whole second guessing about what I really want, and then they tend to dial down their aspirations. And we see this with organizations, because organizations also say that women are not aspirational enough. When we offer something to them, they're always coming up with, oh, my child is in the 10th standard. I don't think I'll be able to put in that time, or my mother-in-law is looking like she's going to fall sick and I'll probably have to go after, caregiving, etc. So multiple things which makes them keep their career a little flexible. And of course, it is a known fact, and research has proven that women, when they take something up, they want to make a success of it. They're not looking to kind of wing it and say, hey, let me see if I'll succeed, right? So unless they're very sure they're going to succeed, so they're quite prepared and maybe in a sense over-prepared for a particular role before they sign up. And then they hold themselves accountable to having delivered 100%. And if less than that, then again, they are feeling guilty. So there are multiple very complex emotions associated with women and the work that they do. And understanding all of that is important to be able to guide her career forward, right? So it's a multiple set of things that we will need to address. And some of this we need to talk to women, which I'm sure you've done. And, they have said what their issues are. In our own experience, we find that most times it comes down to family and home priorities, work and home priorities. At the end of the day, the woman still carries the larger load of the home management and the children's performance and everybody's well-being, so to say. Men have started to pitch in. We do hear good stories and, all of that, but it's not the norm. Right? I mean, the woman still has to tell the man, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that. So there is a certain additional burden, and there's enough research that shows, particularly the Indian woman, works some 4.1 times more than, unpaid work than men, etc. So some alarming numbers like that. So I think as we are talking to women, we also need to work with the social context in which women are, working. So, our organizations, our families enabling them to succeed. So all of these are questions that seem to come up as we work on this. For some women, it's more, for some women, it is less. Some of them are highly enabled. Some of them are very badly, not, even maybe disabled in some ways by their environments, but have chosen to fight it out. So you have very different circumstances that are, different for individuals. But by and large, there is a certain set of, challenges that seem to kind of run through most women employees. And particularly as you're moving into leadership, it also means giving women the confidence and the legitimacy for it, which is often not given very socially. Women are not, and, I think there was some very interesting research that was done, I think by McKinsey, some 2015 research, which actually showed that women are not given those leadership or given permission for leadership in a lot of ways, because they're told to be nice and, you will run a home, you need to be the person who will manage relationships, and therefore you can't be angry, you have to talk softly. Multiple things that are conveyed to a woman, which makes her a good collaborator and all of that, but oftentimes not a good leader in the traditional sense of how we have looked at leadership. Of course, from an organizational side, things are changing. It is not the command and rule where, you used your power of being assertive and aggressive. Assertiveness is good, but, earlier leaders used to be almost aggressive because that was seen as a good quality. The person was able to get things done and could weigh a heavy hand, kind of a thing was admired. And a lot of times women were expected to follow suit in that. But thanks to how organizations are changing, I think we are not expecting women to fall into that same slot anymore. It used to be that women who chose to succeed had to adopt a style that was not necessarily what came to them naturally, but they developed those styles just so they could be successful. Today, we are saying we can allow our women to come the way they are because that brings advantages. and, let us not get her to fix herself as much as we fix the environment and the ecosystem around her for her to succeed. Right? Earlier, it was your responsibility. If you are a aspiring leader, then, do these things. Yeah, be ready to travel at the drop of a hat, be ready to step up and speak up, be ready to manage conflicts head on, etc., were things that were sort of given, and women were put through those sessions. Assertiveness building, conflict management. I mean, these are all important, but not necessarily in the traditional way in which they used to be done. So I think I will sort of stop here and, would like to hear people's reactions to it, and then we can kind of go back and forth, because none of this is written in stone. All of this is debatable to a great extent, but of course, as we all know, and I see a lot more women here, what your personal experiences have been, because that also kind of is a good way to kind of look at what could be the possible changes that are happening. And we do have a few men who can give us their perspectives on what the women they're, in touch with are facing and talking about.
Yeah. Thank you, Nimi. And I think you've touched at least 2-3 points where we can definitely have a good conversation. We have in the room today a lot of women and men who have worked with women. Sandhya here, I can see, who's done a lot of work with women leaders in Deloitte. Anita has worked a lot with women leadership programs, Anita and Sangeeta together. A lot of the others also I can see who have Lata and Saroja, and all these people have done a lot of work. So I would love to. Jayanti, of course, is our coach from She Leads, and of course she's a executive coach otherwise, but She Leads, she's done so many of these versions. Kala is one of our executive coaches as well. Ruby works with women leaders a lot. So all of the people here have also worked with women leaders a lot. So I invite all of you to kind of chip in with at least one thought that you have, which is probably the uppermost that's coming in your mind, with Nirmala teasing some of that from our experiences. Each one of us can share one thought, and then we can come round and share more, right? So that all of us get the space and time to speak. So whoever wants to go.
I can start.
Yes.
One of the things which around 8 years back, which Deloitte did, was they realized that the number of women at the leadership position at partner level was just around 14%. So when they start at assistant manager at a difference of, at 40 and 60, by the time they reach partner, it was less than even 11%. So if that number had to increase, then you are looking at the senior manager level. And a lot of the attrition, when they looked at where the pipeline is getting leaked, was at the deputy manager level, which is approximately around 30 years. So the program that we ran, actually, I'll just talk about what we did was for partners. And what the global CEO said that we're not going to wait. We're not going to wait for women to change and make that shift happen. I don't care where and what your thinking is. If the woman is at 70%, if a man, according to you, that's 100%, you will make her a partner. I'm not waiting for you to decide that she comes to 100 and then I make her a partner. Even if she's 70, you want to make her a partner. So that was a way with what happened 8 years back. And that shifted the mindset of people when they started seeing more and more women making it into leadership positions. Whether they were directors, they were senior managers, they were partners. There was a lot of talk saying that this is reservation, or this is, this is bias against men. But when I look and where we saw, it was a long-term outcome. It was the same outcome which decided a 15% reservation for women in engineering colleges. When women were less than 10% in the college, today they are more than 70%. It was that shift. We were not waiting for parents to make that shift. It was a shift which was made at the government level. So therefore, a lot of changes cannot happen that women, you get up, you wake up, you do your stuff. As an organization, my question always is, what is the shift that you are making in the way you work? And don't give that flexible timing and all that. Let's talk about real change and long-term outcome. So that was something I would like to share.
I think that goes with Nimi's thought that you should work with the system more than with the individual. Because many times it's the system that comes in the way. Anita?
Yeah, I'm just coaching. Yesterday, in fact, I had this very long conversation with a very senior, very capable young lady. And there was so much of, there was so much fire in her when I had last spoken with her. And she kind of, she's an old, I used to coach her and she reached out. And really, it was the system. And it seemed to have, so I said, I first want to see you smile the way I was used to seeing you smile. And there was but she had somehow decided to take on the system. So we talked about prioritization, and said, what is it that really bothers you that you could fix instead of fighting too many battles? Yeah. So somewhere, I think totally to carry Sandhya's thought forward, there is, and Nimi, I know the way you work with the system also. There's no doubt. So somewhere I read this topic a little differently. I thought that, somewhere when somebody sponsors women, there has to be some session within the program. It should be a women's only program. I tend to agree there. But there has to be a session or two where the sponsor has to come into the room and also experience the kind of challenges that the system is putting on the women, right? Maybe that's only possible when we do, for a company, maybe in an open forum, I don't know whether everything is equal, but truly, I believe it would help. So one of the reactions then of women tend to be, then they take on, once they're faced with, they've reached a point where they're faced with so many challenges within the organization of being blocked. I mean, literally, she said, if I leave out one thing out of the 30 that I have, and this is executive committee, sorry, just short of executive committee. I am picked on more than the guy because there is such a male-dominated culture. Now, we had to literally run through her list of areas where she gets upset and figure out which one to take on. So I think one of the challenges that we need to address in the program that we now design is, yes, there are going to be challenges, but are we also in our growth cognizant of the fact that how do we, it's not about only conflict resolution. I think it's about either I sort of cave in and say, forget it, or I, calibrate, perhaps, is my point. So 2 points, bring somebody in, which is the system, and 2, how do we help them calibrate their response to the pushback?
Yeah, thanks, Anita. I want to bring in Radha here. Radha, you have spoken so many times when we do She Leads about the system and how women intrinsically are not being ambitious enough. And then, also the system not supporting them. What else do women intrinsically need to do? You have spoken so many times about that. Any additional thoughts on that or anything else that's happening in your mind at this point?
Yeah, so I see it this way that I was, Nirmala, just to your context, I did IBM early on in my career, first 8 years, then I did Mindtree, which is a startup entrepreneurship, and then went to Microsoft. So very different, I would say, culture and how it is treated as a system, right? Microsoft, because it was recent, 2016 types. So very solidly pushing for women at key position. Every key position is also measured on. The KPI is how much of diversity you bring in, right? So as a system, it pushes, and we are not even allowed to interview male candidates till you find that there are enough women or just not. So if you take top three shortlisted candidates for the senior role, it has to be at least two women. So many of such things. And I think what the system did was actually to bring up a lot of people. But what I would say is that it was a little bit more not authentic, right? Because there is obviously going to be a murmur because everybody knows that you're just looking for women candidates. I found that it became a little bit of an artificial push into the thing. But what I felt women still needed to do those top jobs, because the jobs in Microsoft are solidly competitive, and I mean, it's like 24/7 most of the time. They would say, don't touch your emails on Saturday, Sunday. But you will find that everybody makes the emails, and Monday morning 100 emails go out because you don't send it on a Saturday, Sunday. So you still have to work because you know pressure of the business, right? So I found women need a separate program because there is authenticity with which women should actually come in. And I have done business leadership positions all across, and I can tell you that where I see women in the business angle, I'm in the technology industry, obviously, but I think is more to be confident of themselves, be just authentic, whoever you are. You're a mild person, be mild. You're aggressive, you're whatever, just be that, because I think the ability to make women accept that you be who you are and let the system and the men around you or others around you take you as you are is something that the She Leads program actually needs to instill, which we try to do in our stuff because that gives them the confidence. The other big thing that happens is also the assertiveness or the conviction comes out of being current, because today everything in the world and everything in every industry is changing too much. And I mean, it's not just technology industry, technology touches every other industry. And hence being current in terms of what is a very big need to make your own decisions for your team, for your corporation, for firm, everything, right? And women don't find that time to do it because how many things will you read? I mean, there's just too much. So trying to distill things, that how do you keep on top without having to glance through. Of course, you have the digital medium, but it's so crowded today that you just don't know how to do it, right? So there are few tips of a mentoring types, I would think, that is also needed along with the coaching, because behavior is one, but they actually face problems in networking because they're obviously going to be, I mean, you may skip dinners, you go to dinners, but you come early, you come off early because you keep a time limit in your head that no, now I will wriggle out of that and come away, right? All of that is so natural with women, with most women, I would say. I wouldn't say all women, but I think so. How do you still tackle the ambience in the company? How do you still push yourself to be who you are and get accepted? I think there is a need for a program where they can, but I agree with, I think Archana was saying, the need for I think top level executives is also very much there. They may or may not accept it. But I think the senior mid-level, if you really focus on, in some of our programs, I found we mix very junior people with the middle senior level, which doesn't gel well because they're very, very different sort of needs or what they need to be fed with, right? So I think that, but it's definitely a need, I would say, and happy to see Nirmala come here for us and to chat to us.
Thank you. Thank you, Radha. Saroja, you want to go? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. So lots of great suggestions and ideas, and thanks, Nirmala, for kickstarting this discussion. I just wanted to share my experience of how it's been over not just the She Leads journey, but over the coaching journey. So two kinds of distinct, let's say life stages of women, both not just in terms of age, but also I guess in terms of where they are career-wise. 30 to 40, I think they don't come with as much of the self-limiting beliefs that the older 45 plus women come with. 30 to 40 age group, I have experienced them as very career conscious, very supportive background from home, very ambitious themselves. The idea of what it is to be a leader and what is it that they want out of a leadership role differs from person to person. So I agree with Radha there that they bring their own, the focus is to try to help them bring their own authentic idea of leadership to the surface. Not everybody sees aggression as the best way to go, or being nasty as the best way to go. So, but they're very clear that they want to leverage this program to become a much better version of themselves, and systemic support or being able to get to the point where they are able to influence the system is actually the ask, or the bigger ask for this age group of leaders, women leaders. The 45 plus months are additionally grappling with some of the baggages that they have grown up with. So for them, no matter how much the ambient sort of system also reaches out to help, they are unable to still the voices in their heads about how the family needs them, the parents need them, the growing children needs them. How do I am I cutting down on the time for some of these of my responsibilities? And that chatter at the back is the one that they try to either still or navigate or request for help in managing that chatter when it came to some of the one-on-one conversations. So it appeared that there is merit in either looking at there are merits and demerits to declustering them or putting them together, because one can gain from the other. Some of them actually have young daughters, of the age group that some of our younger cohort members were, and they could see this. This is a pattern with some of their own family members. So there seems to be as many aspirations as candidates. The bottom line that I see for a program like this is probably that the market could be more clearly from a market point of view. And I was sharing this with a couple of others, that a small to medium company which does not have the resources to invest in in-house programs or HR and all of that, but still has a fairly sizable team of women who are all holding very responsible positions and can't afford to slip up, are kind of seeming to respond, at least in some of the conversations I've had, seeming to probably respond better to a program like this because they don't get such opportunities. But I would say definitely women-only program is not something we should give up on. I would say probably look at what kind of stages they're coming from and what are their aspirations, and whether the system is the challenge or limiting beliefs of home front are the challenge. Have coaching conversations which are quite customized to their needs and understanding their own role of leadership and idea of leadership, and help them get that. But there is no one size fits all. So we need to find the balance of how something like this can work out. But this is what I see as potential, some of the things that sprouted when I was thinking some of these things.
Thank you, Saroja. Sharda has raised her hand, and Sharda, welcome. Just to you give a little data, recently on LinkedIn, Sharda's 3 coaches from 2017 and her as a group. That was a very nice post which came, and saying that all 4 of them are in touch, and it's such a beautiful post that Savitri has written. So Sharda, please share your thoughts.
Yeah, so good morning. I'm right now in US and reached just
Wow.
yesterday, so so I'm a little bit still with the timelines. Okay, I think this is a very, one of my a topic close to my heart, women leadership and women in general. I think what everyone shared thus far is everything is extremely important and makes a lot of sense. So it is not, in my view, it's not whether system only should change or whether we should have only women. It is all, there's no or, it should be all and. That is, there has to be a system intervention. There has to be women only programs to support women really take on this new challenging roles that are emerging today. And looking at program in a little more with a little microscopic detail in terms of whether we are putting the right mix of people in the programs. According to me, I think the needs of the want of women or different age groups are very different. There are women who have taken on family as a very critical part of their life and work roles, have different challenges. Senior women have very different challenges as leaders I'm talking. And young women who are today not wanting to even have a family, but are very focused on their career, their needs are very different. So that's one point which probably comes to my mind. The second one, which I'm recognizing, is a senior women. I think one of us talked about mindset that they hold about themselves, that I am good enough. And therefore, I don't have to change. I can have my unique leadership style is one very big area that women have to become very comfortable with. And they don't have to emulate their male role models in their, work environment. That is, I am good enough as I am, and I still continue to be a leader. That is, I think, a big thing for senior women leaders. The other part which I have been working, or rather encouraging senior women leaders, is to become mentors to the younger women in their organization, which many of my senior women have taken on, leaders whom I have coached. They have taken upon themselves, because today we are in a situation where we have to recognize that women is a big, part of our work environment, and therefore it is not just left to the system to deal with. It should be women who have become leaders and in a way pioneers in their organization have a role to play towards this. So encouraging them to take on a larger role beyond their leadership as a mentor, I think is also, that's what I would like to probably highlight in addition to all what others have said so far. So the other part which I'm seeing women still doing is not asking for support. That is, if they have to play a senior women role, they don't have to be the I do everything on my own attitude. So learning to seek support at home front, and those certain things, asking what they need, asking for what they need, rather than being those, I would say that lush shrugged or the Hercule, like I deal with everything on my own, is one big area that I think they can start becoming comfortable. I think that is one area they need to become very strong in terms of asking for that help. The other part is, helping them deal with, finally, whether we like it or not, Indian women do play a big role on the family front, especially when they have children. And learning or helping them to really balance their lives out. And as I think Anida said, prioritize, which is not just the work front, but also other responsibilities which they would like to take, and how do they really seek, make it I think, a joint thing, along with learning to seek that support from their spouses. So they either demand or they, take it on themselves. So learning the art of collaborating even at home, not just at work front. I think that is a very big area that women can start to focus on. So learning to collaborate and have those conversations at work front, rather than demanding, and it becomes, almost like an aggressive attitude in them to ask as if, that help it, because they don't know that they don't have the skill for that. So they're breaking a personal mindset of their own that I need not be the only caretaker of my children. Even, men have their equal responsibilities, or the spouses, or even the extended family who is at home. So learning that art of collaborating at work, personal home front, is also one big area probably women can seek. So a program for women, yes. However, a mix probably could be, have to be seriously considered, looked into. The third part is the willingness. Some of the needs of women who are having, in my experience with Sheely's participants when I work with them, their need is very limited when people are having to deal with small children and their professional lives. The needs are at the moment not necessarily focused so much on leader, but how do I balance? Women who are in senior position, their needs are very different. They're not really so much hassled by the, how do I handle my children and workforce? It has become more leadership skills. Dealing with I'm good enough and be my unique self and all those things. So the needs, I think, have to determine the mix where probably they can find this networking as a meaningful thing for themselves. So I think I would probably, at the moment, can think only of that.
Thank you, Sharda. Thank you so much. Abha wanted to say something.
I have a question on this, Sudha.
Yes, Suresh.
Yeah, I have a question for Sharada and on that interesting and different perspective about, having these women leaders also do mentoring. I just want to understand this a little better in terms of how is this to be done, and has this been done with some of your participants, and have you seen greater change or benefits? So
yes.
can you take?
Yeah,
How do we weave it into the She Leads program?
No, I will definitely respond to this, Suresh. Sharda will also, of course, respond. But we have definitely put that into the She Leads program already in terms of women, standing up for women, promoting women, talking to women more, as even as a part of the program itself, because that really helps them to build that energy of promoting and understanding women more in their own organization as well. But yes, it was a part of the third virtual session which we did in She Leads. But definitely, over to Sharda. It was a question to you, Sharda.
Yeah, so it's a very good question. And what I have done with my women leaders is first work with them as coach, in terms, when I say work with them, is work alongside with them, is to help them first become okay with who they are as leaders and trust in their own unique qualities that they bring to the role. First, I think that has to be addressed, because women cannot become mentors unless they found their own personal strength in themselves. So I think that comes from their authenticity when they work and realize, hey, I'm good enough and I bring this value and I don't have to emulate my, these particular skills which are not natural to me. So I think first they need to work with themselves and then take on that. And they themselves really realize. So when they speak, they become role models for the other women, because they're speaking from their own personal journey, not necessarily. So in the program, I think the focus for such senior women is first coaching, helping them, coaching as an intervention for their own personal growth. Then in addition, they must feel empowered to say, hey, I think I can do now a little bit of this into my leadership role. I bring this mentor for being a mentor for other women as a leader in my organization. And that's what many of these women are doing already.
Thanks, Sharda. Thanks. Abha, you want to go? Then we have.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And first of all, I think it's good afternoon for you all. I'm in Denmark. And I got to know about this program through AVK Mohan, this particular webinar. And I, first of all, am joined uninvited, so sorry for that. I really kind of understand the perspective of everybody who has spoken so far, because I've been at both the ends. I've been a coach who has coached women and men as well. And I've seen the differences. I've seen the differences in their approach towards themselves and towards the roles that they perform in the rest of the organization. And I've been on the receiving end. I was working at a very senior level, and I got married at the age of 50. The moment I got married, how the whole perspective of the leadership team that I was working with shifted. The same professional, all of a sudden, there was this question mark: would you leave and go? Assumptions being made. So I've been at the receiving end, so I chose to actually give back in the sense that chose to work with women. But one of the things that I've realized, if we do not address this issue early on, the damage is actually done. A lot of women I've worked with are very diffident, and they're more at a senior level. Very, I would not use the word aggressive or assertive or whatever, but they doubt themselves a lot more than men do. And the need to prove themselves is a lot more. And somebody had mentioned that they actually have to do a lot more, everything. If this issue is not addressed when they're really taking shape as leaders in the organizations, then I do see that women will continue to struggle. There would be some powerful role models like you all are. And that to me is really great. But let's also imagine women in engineering sectors and manufacturing sectors where the environment is not very conducive. Not many have the ability to work with great leaders or great organizations which are focusing on diversity and inclusivity. I personally feel that I really do not know what work you all do, but I definitely feel that this is an issue that needs to be addressed when women start getting into leadership roles and take it forward up to obviously the senior most levels. Maybe even at the college school levels where we are taught very differently at homes. And all of a sudden to change when you become senior, acquire senior leadership roles, it does become difficult. So that is my two bit, that my own understanding of working with women has been that they are a lot more diffident. They are equally bright, brilliant. They may even have the time to do whatever they need to do, but they're still shy of talking about what they bring to the table. The roots are somewhere else. I think the issues are somewhere else. It's more cultural. And to address this early enough. I would like to know more about this organization. I would like to know more about your programs, but that I will do later. So that's all that I wanted to talk about.
Thank you, Abat, and thank you for coming in. Thank you so much. Yes, Shiva. And then Lata, of course. Lata has, extensive experience as, of course, as a pioneer member of She Leads. But apart from that, she herself is a coach, but her daughter is even more powerful now. So we would love to hear from you, Lata, in all kinds of shades and whatever you can bring in for us. Shiva first, of course. Shiva.
Yeah, thank you, Sudha, and thanks to all the people who've spoken. It's extremely fascinating to hear. This is the first time I'm attending a program or a meeting like this. I had a couple of questions. A lot was spoken about, how to work with the system to, have more women in senior leadership positions and so on. I was also curious to know if any work has been done or somebody can share about, is there any informal support network at the workplaces that can help women succeed and be more effective and, more women to go into senior leadership positions? And the second question is, based on the, experience of coaching senior women leaders and some of the needs that have been identified, is that something that will serve to kind of, make a program for middle management, women leaders, where some of these things can be kind of addressed, upfront or, early on, so that they are better prepared as they move up the corporate ladder? Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. Lata?
So sorry, it was on mute. I was just saying, Sudha, such an interesting discussion, really. So my views are a little different from this team. So in my view, Sudha, I think the lines are blurring. And why do I say this? The groups, in the people that I coach, whether it is men or women, I'm suddenly seeing that a lot of the coaching goals are similar, whether it is women or men. The context may be different, but the goals are very similar. For example, one of the men that I'm coaching, I think the biggest dilemma he has is that he is based in Delhi. His wife has got a transfer to Mumbai, and her career is going extremely well. And he's suddenly feeling insecure, inadequate. He's wondering, should he shift to Mumbai? Should he stay here? What does he do with the family? So there are a whole lot of, what about society? How would they see it? So there are all those issues. So I'm thinking that the lines are absolutely blurring. Having said that, I think a women-only program is still very relevant at the deputy manager level. I'm taking a page out of what Sandhya said. At that level, at the deputy manager level, where people are beginning to, people drop out of the race because of all the compulsions at home and all of that, I think there a women-only program may be helpful. It's also perhaps age-related. It's also very demographically related. So, for example, Sharda spoke of young women who have decided to be single. I know that one other person in this group also has a daughter who's at that stage in life, who's decided to be very career oriented. Now, she's not looking for women only programs that support her. She says, I know what I need to do. Men are also beginning to be far more supportive. But having said that, the self-guilt, and for many of the women in that age group, they're second generation women workers or women employees. So their mothers work and they've seen the kind of things that their mothers do and have been inspired by that and are therefore able to go out and conquer. So perhaps a women-only program which caters to all these demographical needs at the senior middle manager level will be appropriate. In my own experience, senior level people, Sudha, don't seem to want women-only programs. They are looking at much more of business programs. They're looking at, they're saying, why do I need, I have come through this grind, I have reached here. Now, please don't treat me as a label. They don't want to be called. So you've seen all that, that why should I be called a woman director? Why should I be called a woman so-and-so? Why not by my professional title? I think all that realization is beginning to come. So there is sometimes a bit of resentment in the women leaders when their organizations nominate them for women-only programs, because they're saying, no, I'd like to be part of the other leadership program on par with my male colleagues. These are some of the nuances that we probably need to take into consideration. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to, say something, what I have heard in my own experiences with a lot of these conversations, one of the things that's happening is a real challenge, maybe a social challenge once again, about women deciding that if they are passionate and career oriented, they don't need a partner. They don't need to be married. They need to be single. They need. So I think motherhood is really taking a big hit in most of the younger generation women leaders, and that's probably a social issue in the waiting to come. We don't know how that is going to turn out a few years down the line or a decade down the line, but that's something which again is like a big compromise on the gender, right? Again, you're learning to cope, but in a very different way. So is that then the way out? Is that the only way out? And women have to do that to kind of cope with this passion and energy coming out in the workspace is a big social question again. So, I mean, that disturbs me many times. I'm a mother of 2 daughters, and I know how they're thinking right now. And I know that they feel that, we don't need to kind of have a partner, get married, get children. There's that's not really the focus of life. So it's an either or. So though we keep saying it should be an and, they seem to just think it's an either or. So still we are stuck in that same thing, but answers are different, is what I feel it's coming out. So that's one thing that I just wanted to put in the mix, because we are all talking about this. Ruby has sent in her a couple of points. She's on the road in
I had
Chicago.
one point to add to sort of add to Lata's, in the vein of what Lata mentioned about women only versus, maybe at later stages, not women only. So one of the things that I found also a category that is looking for women only is the younger age group, the one that you spoke about, but making it big really fast. Between the 30 to 40, they've already become C-suite members, right? They're founders, women founders. They're running their own startups. They've grown probably faster than the average curve that we would have a traditional company would have allowed for. Now, I know who Lata was referring to when she spoke about a person whose daughter that's me. So I have a 35-year-old daughter who is a C-suite holder in an international organization, and she's not even in this geography. She's always been based abroad. But the interesting part is that even she is looking for networking with other women leaders, because there is always call this much abused, much used imposter syndrome, who are at 35, having made it to a CXO role and probably, really, really a very visible top 25 people in the world kind of things that she has managed to land in herself in, is actually very intimidating for her at some level. She wants to be around some other women who are able to tell her that this is okay. She doesn't come with other self-limiting beliefs of whether my family will approve or my husband will approve, or I have to look after this or that, but she has other challenges. So I think I agree with when Lata says lines are blurry. There are equally some women who get annoyed about being part of, calling this a gender-based thing. But there seems to be a need among even high-achieving women who have reached positions very early to network with other women, to be told that, how did they navigate? How did they navigate the power struggle? How did they navigate the travel? How did they navigate the networking? How did they navigate the politics? There were so many things that they are struggling with. And how do they navigate the VC landscape? Apparently, women have a completely different challenge when navigating the VC landscape, because VCs don't lend much to women organizations. So there are some unique such issues. I don't think we can address all of them in a one single program, but it'll be good to probably just tabulate it for this discussion, that there could be so many different expectations coming from something like this.
Yeah, and I'll just add one line to what Sarvan said, and it is the truth, because when we did a program for women partners, we had the same question, that why are you separating? But we were not, we said that you just go through, and Mohinish was then the human capital partner. He said, just go through the process. I wanted to go through process. And when they had conversation with Irina Vittel and all of them, and that group became so close to each other, because they realized that the women network and the conversation, and they then created a group for themselves so that they could be there for each other, because in a world which is, dog eat dog, they were there as to connect and talk to each other about what is it that's working for them. So we did see that. The both what Lata said and Saroja said, and we said that just go through process. Let us see how it works.
Yeah, but they need, I think women leaders need more cajoling to come together. I mean, more than, that's a little. So Ruby's voice in the room. So she's just sent some thoughts. The first one is about systems. Some focus on inclusion at a systemic level is needed. The diversity hiring has got stuck at a number game. Yeah, and she is talking about that. Can we do something at the cultural level, at systems level? The second point she wants to bring in is all solutions being offered is adding more onus on the women. This we have realized also. Yeah, problem is at a systemic level, so solution has to be systemic. It has to be collaborative, and the shape or the structure of leadership is male, which needs a shift. That again, has to be rewritten. We understand this point. Definitely, we have spoken so much about it in terms of how our organizations organized. I mean, that entire thing seems to be male driven, and all and the policies are written very differently. So how are you expecting equity at that point itself? So that again is, yes, thanks Ruby for this voice. Anyone else? Yes, Jayanti, please go ahead.
Yeah.
So nice to see you back.
Yes. See, actually, I think, the woman-only program is still required, but I feel it depends on the industry. Now, industries like finance, banking have seen women, employees or women in the workforce for the past 20, 30 years, and they're more accepting, and the ladies don't have to kind of fight for basic recognition. They are easily getting accepted, and they do rise up, because I have seen myself. I started working in a bank, in 1980. So I have seen that the system is more open, and I've seen the young girls and boys in that sector. They don't have this, the girls don't have that mental block that I'm a woman and I have to fight for my place. But if you look at these traditional industries like manufacturing, oil and oil drilling and other manufacturing industries have just started accepting women engineers, and their fight is just still what we were doing 20, 30 years back. Because I have this one young coachee who said that she wanted to be posted on the plant, and she was posted on the plant, and she was given something outside, and she fell down at site, and she was immediately removed. So I asked her, why don't men fall on site? She said, no, they do. But she was immediately removed, saying that you're a woman and you have fallen on site. So that's a very dangerous thing. We don't want to, we'll protect you. And they've put her on a office job, and she's trying to fight back and trying to, she wants to go back, but she doesn't know how to ask for it. So this is a basic assertiveness where she has to ask for something which she wants to do, and she knows she's capable. And she knows that men fall on site almost every other day. So then that is there, the fight is still at a basic level of trying to find a position there. And I'm also, coaching a lady, a very senior lady, who's heading the legal department in a very traditional oil and, oil industry, which is into oil and rigging and natural gas. And there, she has a similar problem, like, what I think Sharda was telling. She has a team of young women, and that system wants to kind of, try to show that they are promoting young ladies. So in each group, whenever they have some management groups, they include one junior girl from her team. They don't want her because she's senior and she can stand up for herself, and she does ask questions. They just nominate a token junior girl who they know is not very competent, who probably doesn't have the experience and who doesn't have the voice to kind of, speak up in front of senior leaders, and they take her. And this lady resents it. And she knows that when she walks into the room, this girl is not her supporter, though she is still a part of a team. So she had that, dilemma. So I kind of suggested, like what Sharda said, I said, do this. I mean, of course, I'm working with her on so many issues, but I said, one thing that you can do is to become a mentor to all these young ladies, and probably teach them how to kind of, even if they find something wrong, or they're not able to find the nerve to say that in front of everybody, come back to you, and you can coach them and become a mentor to them and make them speak up in these rooms, so that slowly your system, the system realizes that even if they post a junior girl, that girl is going to speak up, So I said, why don't you start, mentoring them? So I still think women alone programs are required depending upon the industry and the level of the woman leader.
Thank you, Jayant. Couple of things that come to, yes, Sharda, and then Sharda. Yes.
Yeah, I think quickly, I remembered a very important point. I thought I should voice it here based on what Jayanti just shared. So yes, women in the engineering sector. So what is that word? It's called science, engineering, and manufacturing sector.
STEM.
They have STEM, you're right. So they have very different challenges, and I have also the background in that. So one of the things these women are facing, which has also come up in my coaching with women in that area, are when they travel, and they travel to locations which are very different. They have issues of, in the project sites and all. Some of them have challenges of being, or rather had experiences of having been experienced abusive behavior of a very different nature. Okay, and they shy away from that out of a fear because the word goes across very fast among them, and therefore they are very scared. And in this area, this is one area which also I've been working with some of the women senior leaders who in this sector who have faced such challenges in their own personal leadership journey, is to really speak up. Okay, they think it is something wrong with them. It is they go through the guilt trip. So helping, I mean, this is a very, I know is a very different, very limited area, but it's an area we need to recognize when we are speaking about women. So some of them have experienced a lot of women, abusive behavior from different sectors of people. So really learning to speak up and in the right forums within the organizations, and also educating other women in these sectors, the junior, the younger, not to give up on their leadership aspirations because of this. Because they do not, today they still feel shy of speaking about these issues. I hope you get what I'm saying in terms of on-site challenges that they face. And a couple of them, I would like to really be happy to say how they really started speaking and sharing their own personal stories among the women, and giving them the strength to say how you can really equip yourself to deal with it appropriately and not become the victims. So I think these are some of the areas, yes, because she said about the STEM areas, STEM industry, sector, women, a lot of women are giving up very early just because they're not able to deal with these challenges. And I think we have a lot of talent there, and we need probably a different set of maybe approach for women in these areas. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Ravna Rao.
Yeah. To just strengthen the last two speakers' words, I am from manufacturing. Earlier, we used to find it difficult to even recruit a woman engineer. I'm from cement industry, Aditya Birla Group. Later on, we used to get people, but as they said very clearly, after some time they were getting dropped down because of two reasons. One is because of the whenever alliance comes, marriage issues comes, naturally the tendency from the social angle, from the parent side, to move her to the bridegroom's area rather than supporting her to stay in these works. So they used to come to us, sir, we are already becoming senior engineers, deputy managers. We wanted to, they're all very bright and very good engineers. Electronics, I'm talking about even what we can say, electrical electronics engineers, chemical engineers. They were all too good, but there was a compulsion from their family side, and they have to leave the job and go. That is very painfully they were leaving. That is one part. Second part, as both of them touched last, they were not able to cope up because of the various conditions in the industry. The industry, as they rightly pointed out, a lot of rules are framed towards supporting that this timing. Like for example, industry rule says women cannot stay after 6 p.m. in any industry. So this itself will give them first a challenge. Sir, why we cannot stay in night? Because night the problems, the way they deal are different. But the industry doesn't help it. They have to go at 6 o'clock invariably. So certain things always is not favorable to them. So what they feel always, so when we can, because the industry is very big sector. In STEM, if you see manufacturing, oil, cement, steel, lot of sectors where now women employees are definitely engaged. Aditya Birla Group is focusing to diversify, but still only corporate roles, HR roles. But when it comes to core engineering roles, they are only going to software jobs. but not into this. Even if they come, they are not able to move forward. One is industry side, second side is, as they said, how to cope up with the other colleagues where they are physically may be strong and they feel that they can do better job, or everything. As she said, in safety, they do a small mistake. Everybody will think that because she is a lady, she is not able to. But others can be pardoned very fast. So at that time, what I was trying to bring is how to make them strong, because they used to come to me. Being a senior person, always it was a challenge for me, how to still motivate them and to see that they will perform better. They say, sir, in what way we are not doing job? Why we are not given these opportunities in many of these? So that is a point which we should address. Going forward, we need these people. But I can tell the good part of them. Whenever I take them, people used to ask me, and I later said, sir, why you recruit a lot of these women? I said, because of them, you people are fallen into discipline. Earlier, I am seeing you people are coming in a very rustic look, never in right discipline, never behaving properly. But at least some girls in our industry has made you very proper. They are all becoming very disciplined, very nice behavior. Many things are getting changed. It is a good mix really we want in the industry, but somehow it is not going up to manager level. They are coming beyond manager. They are quitting and going away. That is very painful. In spite of our personal counselings, it's not helping us. So maybe we'll have to find someday. I want someday. Last attempt what I made is one of our bulk terminal in Pune, the Ultratech bulk terminal. We put a lady as the head of that unit. That was the biggest thing what we can do. She performed very well. But it is only, I can tell, one in a million example. But we need more and more people to strengthen them to face these situations and still get that positions. That's what I feel always. I used to tell in my HR also, we need to do something to retain them. We can't lose them. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think everyone has spoken. If anyone else needs to, just whatever you feel has not been said before, anyone wants to add anything.
Sudha, I think we should invite Vaishnavi to share her
I have
thoughts.
written to all of you individually to share. So even Vaishnavi, but maybe she's not in. Vaishnavi, you want to share? I just kind of individually pinged everyone so that they can share, but I don't know if she's not ready. It's fine. The idea is to see just kind of getting a high level headline into the various things. I think three things come to my mind. One is, of course, the awareness and the awareness building processes, whether it's at the systemic level, individual level, intrapersonal, interpersonal system, wherever it is, building awareness as to what all we can do, what kind of things that that are challenging, bringing it from the ground level, latent level to actually the visible level so that we can act with it. So that level of awareness building, that itself can actually surface issues and start then, bring that into the discussion, onto the discussion table. So that's one level of work. The second level of work is then having the skills to deal with such issues. So many of you spoke about how many skills we need and what kind of issues come and how do we deal with them. So preparing ourselves at the skill level. And the third is, of course, the systemic advocacy level, whether it's social systems, whether it is organizational systems, whether it is systems at large in the working world or the personal family world. How do we build systems that support? So I think the whole dialogue and discussion and debate is about how really we impact a system. So what's coming to my mind after hearing all of us, and then I'm going to quickly transfer the whole thing back to Nimi because she's patiently heard all of us and I'm sure she wants to add. What's really coming to me when I'm hearing everything is the reinforcement of the fact that women's leadership program is just not a program. It's it's like we are shifting the system and the social fabric, when we are talking about work like this. It's not a straightforward executive leadership program. So it's just going to be like this, and there are going to be 4 parts to it, and then part 1 will deal with this and part 3 will deal with this. It cannot be so straightforward. It's quite complex. What we need to bring into this and how we need to interweave coaching, mentoring, and the nuances. I am completely aware that this can't be just that, just that straightforward leadership program. Over to you, Nimi, to add to all the nuances that we've heard.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. I think we had a whole bunch of different perspectives and each of them valid in their own way. And, I'm sort of going to go back to that piece that Archana shared with me in terms of the research. She had that pull, push, those 3 layers. And, roughly that's the framework that we have worked with as well. Very, very similar, where we said there are socio-cultural factors, which is all of the societal context, the socialization that women and men, carry with them as they move into adulthood. Then there are the organizational factors, which could be, how enabling are you of women's needs in the organization. And then, of course, there is the psyche of the woman herself. Yeah. You are a product of your environment, and many times you come with those self-limiting beliefs and, all of the things that you picked up. Right. So if you really look at these 3 factors, the part around the psyche of the woman is what we are trying to address. In many ways, we are telling the woman, you can do it, and, let's help you with that, and think like this, think like that. But there is the organizational piece, which again, we are getting into order, right? Organizations have started to pick this up, and they are bringing more enabling policies, flexible working, pay parity, multiple things, because these are tangible things. You can address them, right? Where we seem to be struggling the most, and which has a connect into the psyche of men and women, is the socialization bit. Now, this is where we are really struggling. So when it comes to women's programs, I think it's equally important to have men-only programs, maybe for lack of a better thing, or, a mixed group or whatever, where we are talking to men about how important it is for them to also participate in their homes, right? I mean, traditionally, it has been that women are better equipped. Now, it's not. It's a learned behavior. You can easily learn to cook. You can easily learn how to carry a child or whatever. It is not a man doesn't become any less because of doing that. So how do we help our men understand this, right? So we need to have those conversations, and it's going to take a while, but we have started on the journey. As an inclusion company, we do this. We talk to men-only groups saying, how can you be better leaders, better home partners, better fathers? And I think that's also a role that men have to play, right? So talking to them about how they need to enable, because many times men will say, I'm helping, I drop the children off, I do this, I do that. But you do that, and the women say they do it because I ask them to do it. They're not doing it on their own. It doesn't come to them naturally. Okay, now you also have to have some patience while you're getting them trained and whatever. But the idea is that people participate actively, and as organizations, they have a lot of clout, right? Organizations have individuals in their company. You bring them into a workshop, and you kind of, it's a captive audience, and you're telling them, hey, this is what is there out there. The world is changing. Your wife, your daughter needs a better world. If you don't think your wife needs a better world, your daughter certainly does. And a lot of men I have seen tend to connect with all of these things when their daughters come of age, right? So telling them that to build a better world, we need you to participate. And there is also a cost to men when they don't participate, right? Because there is joy and there is fulfillment that comes from taking care of your children and your elders, and getting them to see it as not being any less masculine and helping. And yeah, it's a very complex topic, so I'm sort of struggling to kind of condense it for this group here. But what we are trying to do in the work we do with the ecosystem, so to say, is to move away from man and woman and say, let's talk masculine and feminine qualities. And a balanced leader needs to have both. A balanced man, woman needs to have both, right? So unless you're a good mix of the two, you're not a wholesome person. And therefore develop and sharpen that aspect if you've neglected it, because society pushed you one way or the other. And this becomes very important because it's not just about a woman being pulled from a team and being developed into a leader, so to say, but also having her 360 environment supporting it. So her manager, for example, the immediate manager plays a huge role. So the manager needs to know why this woman is being put through this, and this manager can then become the mentor and informal coach, etc., as she transitions. And I can give you many examples where managers have either helped or not helped. For example, there was this case of a young woman who said she was very excited about a particular role, and she was all set for it, and she has 2 young kids, and she had actually found additional help for them, etc., etc. And then her manager had a conversation with her and said, I just wanted to check this with you personally. Are you really feeling equipped to do this? So she said, yes, I think I am all right. No, I'm just saying this because I have 2 kids myself, and I know how difficult it is to, they fall sick and this and that happens. And this job really requires you to be on the road and do all of these things. She said, the minute he said that I don't want to fail my manager, she started to overthink the issue. And rather than enabling her, and he thought he was enabling her to think through, and, she had her entire system backing her, but she went back home and decided, maybe I'll take this up later. She gave up an opportunity. I have a very different story with another close friend of mine, actually. She was going through a very difficult personal situation, and she wasn't performing as well as she was performing earlier. She was going through a very sticky divorce case and all of that. And she got to a point where she said she was not doing justice to her job. She decided to resign. And she hadn't spoken to anyone about this. She went to her manager and said, boss, I want to resign. I have a lot of personal issues, etc. He said, if you're okay, would you share them with me? And then she said, I'm going through this divorce and whatever. And he said to her, this is when you need your job the most, right? I'm going to help you through this. And she said, I'm eternally grateful to this manager because he gave me the support I needed, gave me the time off for all of the hearings and whatever else that she needed. And she's, a very senior leader in the industry today. And she said that part was what really kept me in the workforce. So a lot of times it's so personal, and women, as we are socialized to be, we tend to take on everybody's problems as ours, and this is somebody unhappy at home, I must be the reason, or somebody unhappy in the team, what can I do to help? You sort of take on things, on yourself. So helping women to understand some of the things that have been socialized and are really not necessary or aiding them is part of the leadership development that we are talking about. Because otherwise, I think they have it all together. It's just being comfortable in who they are, in saying in asking for what they want, telling their families, I'm ambitious, I want your help as I do this. All of these are good conversations to have. And, I also see a lot of young women struggling to get the help they need. I think somebody mentioned, they don't ask for help enough. I think it's okay to get paid help. And we need to tell young women, yes, it might be expensive, but it's an investment in your career, because if you don't invest, you're going to burn yourself out and your career is gone, right? So that bit extra that you're paying is to buy you peace, which then kind of helps you to stay in the game and get to wherever you want. Another message I think that is very important is to also let women, and when I say women, I'm also saying men need to be told these things, because we've always looked at a woman's success based on a man's way of succeeding in an organizational context, right? Linear growth. You go from an assistant manager to a deputy manager to whatever else in the organization, and you grow in a linear fashion. Today, I don't think that's required. Both men and women can take time off, unlike earlier, for what they want to do, because career has to be seen as a bunch of things that you do that are satisfying and fulfilling for you. So there may be times when you take time off to do something that's fulfilling, which then makes you a better person, improves your self-growth, and you picked up some skills on the way, which then becomes transferable into something else that you pick up, right? So it's not necessarily growth only in that organization. It could be a linear growth. It could be that you're moving a zigzag in the organization and getting to wherever else you want. It's okay to put your career on the back burner for a couple of years if there is a child that's unwell, or something that's tugging at your heart and you're not able to put yourself fully into work. It's okay. You don't have to quit the workplace. You can be a little less of a performer during those couple of years. It's all of this is okay, because men have done this all the while, right? It's not always that they're performing at their peak all the 30-35 years that they're working, right? So it's all okay, because we hold ourselves to a higher mark, and anytime that fails, we feel we are not doing justice and therefore quit. So I think these are some of the things that I've seen coming into the picture. And when we get men to participate in these conversations, many times they're able to connect with what their wives have been through, what their children are talking about, what their daughters-in-law are saying, etc., etc. And then they become allies to support it, saying, okay, you're not the only one feeling like this. Women go through this and it's not fair, but let me help you through this. Right? So it's that we will need to build. It could be government saying flexible working must be given, or, the COVID pandemic allowed working from home. And as an inclusion organization, we've been talking about it for the longest time. So February 2020, an organization said to us, yeah, that's a great idea, but we are not ready for it. I think it will take us another 5 to 10 years before we can go flexible. And guess what? Within 3 months, they were flexible without any preparation, no budgets, no conversation. So necessity really drives us to do some of these things. And, if we put our mind to it, and which is where the mandates help, whether it's a government mandate, whether it's a company policy, like Sandhya was saying, that Deloitte said, we will do this. And we will courageously take a stance that if a woman is only 70% ready, we will still take her. Now, a lot of managers will cringe at that, saying, how do I respond to the men in the organization? They're going to say this is reverse discrimination, etc., etc. So how do we have conversations with them, give them a safe space to express their angst at what is happening, but telling them this is important for the long term. At some point, somebody needs to pay the price. And, it is important that we level the playing field, because it has not been leveled so far. So to me, fixing all of that along with talking to the women is where we will see some visible change. So I think just as important to talk to the men, and in this context of She Leads, maybe the managers of the women who are in the program, telling them, this is what they're going through. These are the inputs they're getting. Give them opportunities to express those skills in some form. If she's not ever presented, give her an opportunity to make a presentation, right? So a woman needs her manager's support to be able to grow. So, kind of making them allies in the growth will become a very, very important part of this journey.
Yeah, thanks, Nimbi. I was just, I have a couple of hands up from Vijayashree and Sharda, but before that, I just wanted to also focus, because we are already at 5-7. Just wanted to ask, because we have a mix of business leaders and coaches in the room, a question that's always kind of been there in CFI's mind is how do we, which kind of segment do we approach, and how do we actually target this, target this offering? It's been slightly a challenge because the way we have structured it, it goes to the senior leaders, but then randomly the HR picks up, anyone and then nominates them. And then once they are nominated, then we can't say no. So that's why the mix in the room. So these have been some of our challenges, but some thoughts on how do we even offer this so that there is a certain targeted way in which we offer and invite. Because once they are in the room, they're definitely benefiting. That's what we have seen. But how to get them in the room, like I was sharing the other day, has been it's been a challenge. So how do we do that? How do you all do it? Just if you can share some thoughts on that, it will be very helpful, because going forward, we need some advice, mentoring on that. So yes, anyone? Sharda, you still want to say something which was relating to what Nimi said?
Yes, I think my prompting came from what Nimi said. So I think I have felt that we are going from a bottoms up approach in a way, probably. And if you really look from a top down, it would be like, we do understand there's a need for programs for women and men as well, of course. However, it is important to identify there are different needs that are showing up from the different sectors and different women. So what does She Leads or what does CFI would like to really focus on? It is not one program. Probably it could be different approaches or different programs for different sectors or different areas, I personally feel. So accordingly, what is the cause or the purpose we would like to serve as CFI and address and help with our interventions through could be She Leads or business executive coaching. And therefore, I think approach has to be very different for industries. Approach is a little different from, when you're looking at women from someone, a person said, on the financial banking sectors or women in other industries. So I think what is the approach, therefore, has to be, because then the needs and wants and expectations could be little homogeneous. And we as CFI are there to serve that cause, that purpose. So the approach, in my view, has to be based on and have those conversations with industries accordingly, is one thought that comes to me.
Thank you, Shad. Anyone else?
Maybe I'll share something that we have seen. We've also been doing work in this space, and something that I've seen is that young women, young single women, say, let's say before 30, for example, have often protested, saying, "Don't put ideas in my head. I don't feel any different." Right? From my male colleague, "Why are you telling me these things?" So there has been a lot of resistance. And then as we go this, we see them at a later stage in their life, they are sort of saying, "Yeah, I think this makes sense." And as they grow in their career, they are beginning to see that, yes, there is a big difference. So, it is what they know at that time. So, women don't have a problem in the initial years. So in a sense, a lot of the times we start to focus in that 30 plus age group, because women are getting married later, women are having children later, etc. So they have some experience that they put under their belt before they get into marriage and kids and all of that. So how are you going to use that? Take time off if you want to have a child and spend time with the child, because some of them say that. We are also hearing sometimes dads saying they want to be more engaged dads, etc. So we are encouraging that as well. So saying if a mom wants to take time off, do that, right? But come back, keep that connect with industry. So we find that group to be a good one to catch, because that's when they're slowly thinking about, compromising somewhere. Until then, it's like, I'm going to go all the way to get what I want. Because at that age, 30 is when their friends are getting married, or, the social pressure is mounting a little bit. Some of them are strong and saying, no, I'm very clear, I will not go down that path. Career is all I want, which is fine. I mean, their decision. But if they are toying, which a lot of them tend to do, this is a good time for them to think about it. So the inputs help there. What are your needs? Do you want this, or do you not want this? Are you, and the conversations today are not necessarily about starting a family. It's companionship, it's support for my career, whatever. So it could be anything, but become more clear about what you want, then your path becomes that much easier.
Yeah. Yes. So I think, taking off from what you said, I think a lot of it is about staying in the game at some point and, persisting rather than giving up. And how do you build up that resilience even as you are kind of working with it right from the beginning? And being more mindful about your choices. I mean, that is something which we can probably work with, because that's very intrapersonal. It's not something as a reaction to something, or it's not something because the world is going in a certain way, but being really mindful about what you want to choose to do and why you really would like to do that. So really focusing on that bit. So that again would be internal, and it's of course true for any gender. I mean, it's definitely true for women, but it's also true for men. But being mindful, being understanding of each other's issues. And I think to your earlier point about the male-female being part of an individual rather than separating that as a gender and saying that this is, a typical male issue or typical female issue. I think this is all coming within us. And I think that wholesomeness to say that it's actually the gender within which I'm responding to rather than what I'm really responding to outside. So I think those kind of topics need to be dealt with. Those kind of conversations need to be happening. That as a part of She Leads. I mean, I'm definitely thinking about that. Anyone else has any other inputs? You're more than welcome to share.
Just one, Sudha, when you just spoke about what can strengthen the program, and a lot of it was about the sponsor having that conversation. I think, Sudha, that would really help, because you actually have a conversation at the very beginning of the program with the sponsor that what are their expectations, and it is just that the nomination has been given from the HR without even having thought through what this person gains from being a part. Because for the last program, I remember the sponsor had asked at the end of this program what were some of the key learnings for the individual, and also what we would like to recommend from our side. So I think that it helps to have an invested sponsor.
Definitely. I think CFI is a couple of things which are very important. I think, let me refer to that initially also. We always focus on motivated coaching, right? In our executive coaching. And I think the same thing we are talking about here, a motivated participant. If that participant really is raring to go, and we wants help, then we can actually help them much more. So that's definitely one point. The second point is about the sponsors' involvement. And wherever it has happened, you would have seen over the 8 programs that we have done, wherever the sponsor has been involved and they have asked questions and they have midway gotten in touch with the participants, and at the end of the program come back and ask, what did you learn? I think the participants have really helped them. In spite of so many other things, I think mid-program, many of the participants got promotions, and that really helped them because it was like a recognition of what they were putting in, the effort that they were putting in. So these have helped. And that part of it, we can never deny that if the sponsor is actively involved, then it makes a huge dent in the program. So making it actually mandatory for a sponsor to be present, or I think Anita said earlier on, briefing them or calling them into the program at some point and talking to them. I think that all those things would really help. I mean, I also feel personally that they then become far more invested in the entire intervention.
Yeah,
But this whole
otherwise, you know what? Sorry. Go ahead. I beg your pardon.
No, I'm saying in an open program, how to
Yeah.
impact a system is something that really, keeps me thinking. Because when you're working in-house in a company, you can actually work with the larger system. But when you're
Yeah.
working with a cohort of women who come together from different organizations, how do we get involved in the system? That's something that I think about. Sorry, Anita, please go.
No, I was just saying it's like a tick in the box in some cases. We've seen that, right? That, oh, there's a women's leadership program. Quickly, I'm not running one. Let me nominate somebody. So somewhere, if we make it at least an invitation at the launch, so we build into the program a way of, and maybe 10 out of 10 may not come, but even if 50 to 60% of the sponsors attend the initial thing, then they know what is going to be unfolding, and they can share, and we can get them to invite them to share. Because I mean, we'll have to find a way around it, is what I feel, Sudha, because it's a pity. It's such a powerful program. We've seen the results. We have people who are still in touch. I have somebody who keeps in touch with me from the first program, and so many others. I'm sure it's happening to you all. So I'm saying it's such a powerful need. And I'm sure Nimi sort of experiences every single day, because that's her focus area. But I'm saying I would hate to give up this idea, what we have been doing, just because for a while we could not market it. Because let's try and see if we can maybe just focus on 4 organizations who are keen but haven't found the solution, 4 diverse. So maybe some sort of strategy that would get us the buy-in and the support. Because I know how the struggle is to get the participants in then, whether to have the program or not. So perhaps if we sort of choose, we know some of our clients who are overall working in this area and struggling. I mean, some of the biggest organizations who are putting it out there are not able to do it. We know that. Yeah. And maybe we could speak with them and say, look, we could curate for it, but we'd like to mix it with another industry so that they can get one thought that just occurred to me.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I mean, more and more, I know Archana's here, and so more and more inquiries are for in-house programs, and we have certain, we have a certain thought saying, if women come from different sectors, different organizations, they will actually learn in a richer environment. They will be forced to talk about different things, and my thought has always been on the opposite, that the senior you become, you need more exposure to other industries and everything, and networking in a very different way, and making friends of different levels of leadership. But somehow every person who speaks back to us has always said that, senior I go, I don't need any networking. I don't need a cohort-based approach. I don't need to learn from everybody else. I need to be. So I really wonder whether I'm thinking differently, or, I mean, the senior I became, I think I networked more because I felt the curiosity to understand what's happening in the other world, what's happening with other people, what's really. So that inhibition of networking actually reduced, and I would be able to go and talk to more people. I'm surprised when people respond saying, the senior I become, I don't need I don't need a cohort. I just need a one-on-one coach if required, that way. So these are some questions that are fundamental. I mean, it's there in my mind and I don't know whether it's generic. Sorry, somebody was saying something. So I don't know if you all think the same or it's different, but I've always been very curious to go for any program to see if I can meet somebody else who can, who can trigger some thoughts in my head or who has different experiences. So I've been very curious all through, and I don't know how it works for others.
I'm just recalling something, and it sort of ties in with some research that I had read earlier. Who do you think are women's, who influence women's leadership desire? Do you think it's their fathers or husbands, or any guesses? Because I was surprised by this.
Yeah.
It's other women.
It's other women. I was just going to say it's other women.
Yeah, it's interesting. And,
women, and including mother, but also
exactly.
a whole
50% plus said their mothers. So, and I think Archana's research also throws that up, right? Many of them saw them as role models. And, I thought it would be different. I thought some father and, uncles or somebody, but it's another woman. And some 80+% said it's other women colleagues at work. So which then increases the need for higher representation of women in leadership, right? So it's a very vicious circle. If we don't have them, then not enough women are being inspired to be there. So
and that is what the need for systemic changes, because we don't
correct.
see them there. You're not
Exactly.
going to motivate an entire generation after that.
That's right. Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much. I don't think there is any end to this discussion, and
there are no easy answers either, Sudha. And I don't think a one-off program can straddle all of this. But I think if we just take away the thought that it is, I think it's in the right direction. We are adding value by having such a program, and maybe we just need to crack the marketing part of it, or how do you package it, or how do you have these conversations, how do you make it by invitation, how do you have these initial conversations of who more suitable. But if you identify which is the right level of organization which is likely to opt for something like this, I think we saw some initial success. We saw it really fast. We got very charged by the first, second, third programs enrollment, and then there was a bit of a struggle because of COVID and everything moving online. So I can understand the frustration of the CFI team as well for the kind of time it's taking. But I don't think we should drop it. I think we should be at it, because definitely I agree with Anita. All the first batch of my coaches are in touch with me. They all talk about how, and I'm sure it's true of all of us, they all talk about how much they've benefited. The littlest things, smallest thing, they'll say, this happened and I recall this conversation we had. So, it's so at a subliminal level, they've all been impacted, and they're also passing it on. The best part was one of my coaches said, I could recognize this in my subordinate, and I wanted to assure her that this can be overcome. I mean, I think that was this whole passing it on, pass it forward was so evident when in quite a few of them. So I think we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to sort of keep at it. And
yeah. As somebody who sort of resonates with the starting point of where this started. In fact, in the room that I'm sitting right now.
Absolutely.
I really feel we had the Josh and we got kind of a bit fed up. Maybe we need to, it's the marketing that we need to think
I think we all need to converge in your room, and we need to get the energy back, and we need to do this. So let's keep at it. Yeah.
So, yeah. In fact, I was going to close with that, Anita, saying that you are in right where we were talking about this,
Yeah.
and definitely
Yeah.
things are going to move forward, I hope. Uh, please feel free to reach us if any other thoughts come to your mind, and anything that we can do. Definitely, as person who's kind of running this at this moment, I would like to do disproportionate efforts. I don't know what will actually get us the women in the room, but whatever is required, I'm willing to do that, so that we can actually have the benefit of the cohorts happening, and some good work that we are all raring to do. So many of our women coaches and coaches, male coaches, really want to support. So we would love to do this and offer this to the industry. Let's hope that it happens. Thank you, Nimi, so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Nimi.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
sharing.
And
Thank
I
you,
hope what
everyone.
And all the
I said
best.
is helpful to you in your work as well. So we can
Thank you.
keep sharing
Thank you.
these thoughts. Thank
Sure.
you
Thank
so much.
you,
Thank
Nimi.
you.
Thank you, Sudha.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Great to meet you.
Thank you,
Great to
everyone.
meet you all again.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Come
Sudha, you
here.
have a word.
Sudha, come here again. Sharda, let's just meet in
Yeah.
this place and get
Yes,
Yeah,
inspired.
for the
we'll do that when Sharda
Yeah.
comes
one
back.
thing, so the one thought I got, before I forget, I thought I should share. Probably we should identify a few senior women leaders from this program so far who have done it,
Yeah.
and invite them,
Yeah.
and make them our partners in this journey in terms of asking questions: what really helped, what should we do differently. So probably, and maybe they can be one of those people who can start sharing their thoughts and ideas in terms of saying which sector people, how, what different. Just a thought.
So if I may, yeah, good idea. And Archana, if I may ask, when you was being asked for in-house programs, is it, what is exactly the need? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
I was just about to leave, so the mute button disappeared. I had to look for it. The in-house program requirement did not really come from me, actually. I think Nimi was. Yeah.
So Abhirami and in Ganesh, in fact, even as we are speaking, they're doing some work only with women leaders for just creating ID, for just doing some little in-house program for women, like a lead program. Like that, they're getting some inquiries, and they have started doing some work like that. So I think Ganesh is trying to experiment with that and see whether that works. If in-house works, maybe we can do that. That
Personally, and I've heard this now from 3 very large organizations, seriously, and some of them are clients of CFI. It's really a disaster. They are inviting all kinds of people to, as a tick in the box to run their diversity as partners, and it's not working.
Yeah.
It's just, and the women leaders are angry because they're saying, what is this nonsense? Are you serious? If you're serious, then what are you doing? So it's like, maybe we should just pick an organization.
We have a need, but we did really
Because, a large group could answer your problem. For instance, if you, just for argument's sake, pick any of the big groups we work with, they have diverse businesses. And what is the problem of one woman working in a plant versus another woman working in retail? It's amazing. You will get the experience right there in the group itself. Because they don't know. They're both dealing with totally different environments.
No, that's what we saw, now in the recent cohort we had from Bharat Petroleum, and we had from this one, Archana, you remember the last cohort, how much they shared with each other. We had from BP and we had from where?
HCL, I think,
and
no?
I've been a
HZL.
little out of touch,
Yeah.
so I have no
Yeah.
idea.
The last cohort, was a hybrid, and we had two Blue Star, I think. So they had such varied experiences. They shared so much between themselves, and they were really fascinated by each other's. HZL was there, BPCL was there, and Blue Star was there in the room.
Yeah,
And
I'm saying let's
very
pick key clients and say, "Ki chalo."
But
Maybe that.
no, it's we need to actually probably increase that base of clients who work with their women leaders and target that, and then get not our traditional clients. Maybe that could be the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're all got now a mandate, na? So but they're hiring
But
all sorts
still
of
they're-
weirdos. No,
I
they're
know.
hiring partners, yeah. I'm telling you what I've heard verbatim. They're hiring all sorts of partners. I'm sorry, it's not interview, but there are others, and they're cribbing.
I know.
They're not getting